Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Daryl. Welcome back to this channel. In this lessons, what we're going to do is to create the indicators and strategies interactive control checkbox. What we're going to do is to design this checkbox and also set up the logics behind the scenes so that later on we can decide what we would like to show in this main chart. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing first, we would like to create the indicator interactive control. And what we're going to do is to use a check button to create that so that we can control the check, and then once we have this check set up, we can get the status from time to time or within this animate node so that we can keep updating the latest status and then to control what we would like to show in the graph. Anyway, I will show you how to do that. The first things that we need to do is to assign a axis and then with a corresponding locations to that. We would like to put it on the very left hand side, and remember that this is not aligned with this width span. So that is another coordinate system for this. But of course, at the very top, at the bottom left, that is the 0, 0's coordinate. So but then that is already that is not aligned with the grid span over here. So what we're going to do is so you do not need to set negative for that value because that is not within the grid. So that is another set of the coordinates. But at the end of the day, we would like to put it on the very left hand side at the top left corner. So in that case, we will just set it like 0.007 on the x-axis and then around 0.73 on the y-axis. And then for these check, it's much more like a rectangle, so that the width is 0.05 and then the height is 0.1. We will continue to use the figure design for this one so that the design is much more aligned with what the main grids are. So the designs are pretty similar. So you can see that the spines or the border for this one is the light gray color, and then so and so. So they are pretty similar. But then for the coordinations is on the top left corner. So that is 0.07, 0.73, and then the width, and this is the height, and the figure design is similar to the grid. But then I also would like to just change a little bit on the face color. I would like to give this a darker colors on the face. So over here, you can see we have a dark color over here, dark color at the background. So so we would like to set the face color into this color code, and let me show you this color code. And this is pretty much like a dark color or a black color. So once we decide the axis, now we can create the button. So I will name it as a plot button. At back end, I'm going to use a check button. So the first argument is the axis, that is the check, and then the second argument that would be the label. So back to these over here, we will have SMA, EMA, and also Bollinger Band. So in that case, that is the button. Sorry, that is the label. That's the SMA, EMA, and also the Bollinger Band. And then the last setting is the activated arguments. So say for example at the very beginnings, whether or not you would like to enable these buttons. So I just call it activated or not. So this is the much more like a conditions. So I will just name it as activated, and then at the very beginnings is all true for this plot button. So that means at the very beginning, I will just enable all the buttons, check all the buttons. So now we just create a check button under this check axis. And then we can play around with the design. Here you can see that we have 3 rectangles. So I would like to have each of them to be right color at the backgrounds and also for the edge. So in that case, I need to create a for loop to so that will allow me to set the backgrounds, set the face color, and also the edge color into white color. So what I need to do is to create a for loop and then call out this button and use the rectangles methods. So in that case, I can now set the face color, and also that will allow me to set up the edge color, and everything will be right. Inside this rectangle over here, you can see that there's a course over here. So this is a course over here. So right now you can see that is blue in color. So what I would like to do is to just change this into blue. And then for this times, I will just use these 2 lines of codes to change the course. Over here, you can see that it's actually called out by the lines. That is just like these rectangles, that is just like the plot buttons attributes, one of the attributes from these plot buttons. And then once we have these attributes, and we would like to change the colors for that. And for this one, that would be the blue color. And also I would just like to set the line width to be 1.5. So in that case, what I'm going to do is just call out that particular attribute and then replace with different colors and also different line width. And finally, I would like to change the text over here to be right in color. So once again, I need to use a for loop to do that. And the attribute for this one is plot button dot labels. And then that is to set the color to be the color that I would like to assign it over here, and just simplify the case. I just package everything inside a list, so that later on, just say for example, if you would like to have different color for each of the labels, you can just change it. Say for example, for the SMA, you would like to white color, and then for the EMA, you would like to set it into green color, so you can just change it. Let's keep that all of them into white color. And then finally, I also would like to set the font size to it, to 12. So just very quick recap over here. This is to change the box and change the face color and also the edge color for the box. And then for this one, this is to change the check or change the cost, including the color and also the line width. And then finally for this one, that is to change the text, including the color and also the font size. And once we create the functions, or once these functions is being called, and I would like to return these button. These interactive TA functions will help me to create the initial status and initial checkbox for the indicators. So in that case, it's much more like a global variable. And in that case, what I'm going to do is to place it outside these animate functions, so that inside these animate functions, we will continue to keep checking on the status, but that is much more like a local variable. But then at the end of the day, we need to first initialize the conditions. We need to first initialize the checkbox. So it's much more like a global variable. So I will put this function outside these functions animations and just call this the plot button, that is for the TA, and later on we will have a plot button for the strategies. So if I put a print plot button TA dot get status for these plot buttons, we will then able to get their initial status. Now let's run the programs to see what happened. The axis is not okay. Yep, I think so. The design, this one, these lines of code, that should be a list instead of a tuple. Because for the future designs, I will loop it into a list. So just change it back. There's a typo over here. Change it to a list check. And let's do this again. So if I run this, and you can see the initial status is true. It's all true. And let me save the picture for you as a reference. And if I open it, you can see we have just created the interactive control box for the SMA, EMA, and also Bollinger Band. And let's remove this. And now we can create the interactive control for strategies. So everything are very similar, except that I need some other positions for that. That is a little bit down below the technical analysis. So in that case, the original for the technical analysis for the y-axis, that is the 0.73. So in that case, I will just change it to 0.58. And then the figure designs and also the face color are exactly the same. I will just change that. And for the strategies over here, you can see we have 4 labels and 4 checkbox that includes the SMA, MACD, RSI, and Bollinger Band. So in that case, I just need to change it to SMA strategies, still correct. And the second is the MACD trading strategies. And the third one is the RSI, and the last one is the Bollinger Band. But for these times, because I have 4 labels, I need 4 initial conditions. So I just will just keep them as false at the very beginning. So the global status, that will be false. And once again, I will just use the same designs for the checkbox and the same design for the course or the check. And lastly, same design for the text. However, because we have 4 labels, I need 4 color in this list. And now let's create this check button or initialize this check button. So plot button for this one, I will just call it strategies and initialize outside of these functions animations. And if I also would like to print the status for this one, let's say yes, status. And if I run these functions, let's see what happened. The initial status are all false. And let me save the picture. And if I bring the picture up, now you can see we have the interactive control for strategies as well. And the initial conditions is that all of them are disabled. Now let me show you how to play around with the status. First thing first, I would just like to show you that this is the global status, and then inside the functions animate, this is the animate functions. Inside this main, I also would like to check out the status. That is for the local status. What happened is that now we have these interactive control. At the very beginnings, it will help me to enable the indicator and disables all the strategies. So that is for the initial status, and that is at the global level. And then once I keep looping, keep displaying the data lively, in that case, if I click on the buttons, that will change the local status. So that is how I can control what I would like to display on the graph. So in that case, I will check against this local status to consider what I would like to display. So now let me show you how to do that. So if I run the program over here, and you can see that initial conditions is everything is true, including the global and also the local. And then what happens if I change this MA? If I click on this SMA, you can see that that will just change to false, 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 and then bring it back to true. If I click on the EMA, you can see it will become true, false, true. And then if I click on the Bollinger Band, you can see that now that is true, false, false for the result. Therefore, at the very beginning, at the global level, I just set an initial conditions for the indicator for the technical analysis. And then under the local level, inside that animate functions, I can check against the conditions at local levels, that is within that animation functions, and then use that to set up the logic. And say, if I just change this to show, say, MA status, and then show EMA status, and the last one is show Bollinger Band status. Now I can get the conditions to judge whether or not I need to show the status. So in that case, if I capture this status, that tells me to show the M8 based on the status. In that case, I will show the moving average. So that is the ways to set up the logic. And similarly, we can get the status for the strategies button to get the status for the moving average, MACD, RSI, and also Bollinger Bands. And now we are able to use these interactive controls to determine what we would like to display on this main chart. And now we are able to use the status based on the checkbox to control what we would like to display over this main chart. So see you in the next video. Bye bye.